and welcome to this episode of Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, and today I have with me Fire Chief David Layman.
Good morning, Robin. How are you?
Good, Chief. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
You are one of the people who's newer to the city of Hampton than I am, so I feel like, I get to be the old hand today, if that's all right.
Okay.
So how long have you been with Hampton now?
I started the 11th of July of last year, so it's coming up on my 1 year period.
Geez, it doesn't seem like it's been that long, does it?
It's going very quickly.
So let's talk a little bit about your background since you are fairly new to the city. You were just telling me you grew up in Kilmarnock.
That is correct.
So you're from this part of the state anyway. And when did you start when and where was your professional career?
Started my professional career fairly young. I was out of high school. I was hired by York County Fire and Life Safety as a firefighter medic, which was a combination department of both career and volunteer. Now,
what made you want to do that? How did you decide that was your career goal?
I actually started throughout high school as an apprentice fireman, as well as a EMT in the rescue squad, similar to the system that we have down here in the Hampton Division of Fire Rescue, the entry level for the volunteers. Mm-hmm. But that just seemed to be the logical career path for me. I was interested in it, enjoyed it, and when the opportunity to do it for a career came about, it seemed like the logical choice, so it was a great opportunity and I took it.
That's great. All right, so you started in York County.
Stayed there for a couple years, was able to transition over to the city of Newport News and worked my way through the ranks over there. Stayed there for 22 years.
That's a nice long time.
It was, and retired in 2009 as Assistant Chief of Special Operations.
All right, so then what?
Then the opportunity came along for there was a job opening for the Caroline County Department of Fire Rescue. They were looking for their first fire chief. For about 10 years they had a public safety director, but that position basically organized and facilitated the needs of the volunteer, but had no authority over the volunteers, and there was no central organization point of authority and so forth. So the county was looking at changing the structure. So that was an attractive opportunity, and I applied for that position and was accepted. And took that position for a period of 2 years until the opportunity became available and the position was open down here when they were looking for a fire chief in 2009.
So you really built the organizational structure in Caroline. You had the chance to shape that and make it be what you thought it needed to be.
I did, and it was a great educational opportunity. We started from everything from local ordinance, the governance, how we were going to structure the system, the chain of command within the system, and how the volunteers and career would work together, integrate into an effective system for that particular locality.
Now that's important at Hampton as well. We have a long and pretty strong tradition of having the volunteer firefighting crew. How did you see that coming in? That the two, did they work together well? Are there things you're trying to do to make that stronger?
We are. I think the volunteers are a force multiplier for the career staff, and vice versa. That's been my biggest message. That I want to make sure that we all work together. I want to make sure that we are all trained to the same standards. Mm-hmm. We just put professional qualification standards in place. All the volunteer chiefs and the volunteer leadership came together, and we set minimum standards for the volunteers, both on the career side, both on the fire side as well as the rescue squad side.
So there are volunteers in both, and
some
some that are probably cross-trained.
There are. There are some that are in both organizations, and some that just strictly want to do EMS, or some that want to do fire. We do have an element in there, though, as far as from the incumbent side of the house. We offer the EMT, or emergency medical basic program, but we also have put that into the minimum qualifications for new folks coming in, because we do so much EMS work. 73% of our calls that we respond to are for EMS services.
Now, I think that's going to surprise people. I don't think that's a number that we talk about a whole lot. People still, you see a fire station, you see the big red trucks, and I think most people have the impression that is the bulk of what you do, but it's really only a fourth, right? It
is. It's transitioned to more EMS. I mean, we certainly have our fair share of fire calls, and they range in complexity, but the majority of our work are EMS. And so that's why it's so important that we have everybody within our organization to some level of EMS certification, because we want to make sure that we provide the best customer service that we can, and we provide the quickest response that we can. And that's the reason that you see all of our engine companies, for example, are advanced life support capable. So that's why you might see an engine come to your house when you've called for a medic unit, because we're striving to get the first arriving unit on scene within 4 minutes. To meet that customer's needs.
Now, 4 minutes, that's a pretty high standard. And I know that you beat it. If you're shooting for that, certainly you're getting there a little faster sometimes. But where does that number come from in terms of being your goal?
We're working with a National Fire Protection Association standard called NFPA 1710. And that basically is for a career fire department for staffing and deployment of apparatus. And that basically gives us a total of 5 minutes, 1 minute for turnout, and then 4 minutes for response. So it's a national standard that we work towards and try to strive to achieve.
I imagine that gives all of us as citizens a level of comfort that you're working toward that, and that's a pretty impressive number, I think.
And we do a good job at it. We still can do better. When Station 11 comes online, the new station on Big Bethel Road across from the Sandy Bottom Park, when that comes online, that's even going to increase that number better for us, make our average better, especially in the northwest area of the city.
You're a little underserved in that newer developed area of the city.
That's correct. So we'll have another unit out there that can deploy faster to that area.
Okay. Now, what did you find? What was your impression of the Hampton Fire and Rescue Department when you first got here? What were some of the strengths, or what did you see as your opportunities?
Well, I think the strength was that I knew a lot about the department coming from next door and working there for a number of years. And the region always had a real good partnership with the other jurisdictions from the fire standpoint. And we always worked together, for example, with the Tidewater Regional Fire Academy, where we would bring members from this organization and this organization together and train through a 16-week training program. We currently have 6 recruits, for example, up in Newport News at the Training Academy. So there was a lot of regional participation, so I knew that was a strength, and I knew we could rely on one another. I also knew the combination system that we had here within Hampton was a strength from the standpoint of we had the force multipliers like I talked about earlier. Whereas an example is during Hurricane Irene, although we called back and recalled the career staff, we also had volunteers coming in, which we have the capability of staffing 6 additional engine companies with their assistance. So we were able basically to double the amount of apparatus that we have on the road on a daily basis by using the volunteers and by backfilling with career staff. And that's what we do during disaster times.
Boy, I didn't think about that, because normally you keep X level of staffing, whether it's a professional or a volunteer, but in a crisis, you could just bring in so many more people.
That's correct.
That is a good strength to have. So what are your goals for the department? What do you see yourself doing or working, not obviously just you, but working with the team to accomplish?
We've done a couple things already. We've reorganized the department. I've brought on one of the longtime volunteers, Kenny Taylor, and made him the volunteer deputy chief. So Kenny's working with the volunteer branch, working with the volunteer leaderships as their conduit for communication. I've also restructured the operation branch, and I've developed a new branch called support services. So our operations is basically taking care of our field operations, our EMS, our special operations, and then support services is taking care of our fire marshal's office, our logistics, our training, and our administration. So we've done a little bit of restructuring, but I think the biggest goal that I want to accomplish is to make sure that when the citizen calls, that we deliver excellent customer service, and they can't tell whether it's a volunteer or a career person on the engine. I want to make sure that we have developed the training standards that exceed the expectations of the customer, so they are always constantly getting good customer service.
So a lot of what you've done so far is internal things that the customer won't see directly, but it all leads to better customer service and consistent care.
That's pretty much it.
Now, the other thing I noticed, because you were at City Council recently, was this restructuring of ambulance fees. And that is something that, again, the customer won't really see. This is something that gets billed only to the insurance company and is a way of bringing in some revenue that doesn't hit property tax or any other sort of tax. What made you do that? How did that come about?
During the budget process, we were looking for any ways to increase revenue back into the department. We talked with our EMS billing consultant, and our fees had not increased since 2009. So what we did is, at their recommendation, they recommended the increase. We looked at it based on the way our program is, based on residency. There was no direct impact to the taxpayer, and it just seemed like the logical thing to do at that particular point in time, as well as incorporating the new patient assessment fee as well, because a lot of times we would go and provide service, we would use supplies and expendables, however the individual didn't get transported, so we had an expense but we couldn't recoup that cost.
Oh.
So that was the purpose behind the patient assessment with no transport fee. The same criteria applies. If it's a Hampton resident, they pay nothing, the insurance companies bill and so forth, we accept what they pay. So it's the same criteria as we use for the transport.
That's smart, because I read through, I don't know, maybe 25, 40 pages of comments that citizens wrote in on the budget. You know, we had more than 2,000 people participate in surveys, and probably 1,200 of them left comments. And one of the things people kept saying that came up pretty frequently was, look for new ways. Look for new ways to bring in money to the city that didn't affect the property tax. And that, I thought, you know, was something that you'd been trying to do and had gotten through council.
Yes, we were successful with that, and I think that'll be a great, way to help support the organization.
Mm-hmm. Well, what else do you see moving forward that you would be doing? You will be bringing a new fire station online this year.
Bringing a new fire station online. We know we've got, we'll probably host another Tidewater Regional Fire Academy for recruits and so forth in the fall, doing some hiring in the fall. We're going through a rigorous self-assessment process right now from an accreditation standpoint. We're looking at trying to go through the accreditation standpoint through the Center of Public Safety Excellence. Mm-hmm. And that's really going to be the driving factor of updating our strategic plan of where we want to go over the next 5 years. So we're waiting for that component to be finished before we update our strategic plan, but that's going to be the roadmap that we use to guide us over the next 5-year period.
Okay. Well, is there anything I haven't asked you that you wanted to say today?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you this morning. I guess one thing we did do this year that we had not in the past, this past fall, we graduated the first Citizens Fire Academy. That was a huge success. We had about 17 folks that graduated from that. Got very good reviews from that, and we're planning on doing another one this fall. So if anybody's interested in that, I'm sure you'll put it on the city's website and so forth, but they can call fire administration and we can direct them as well. Yeah,
I think the feedback I got was that was a really neat way. People got to ride on the fire truck or, really see from the inside what fire and rescue does, which is a great thing. And I was also going to say, if people want to apply to be a professional firefighter or EMT or want to volunteer, do you have a number or is there a procedure for that?
If they call the main administration number, 727-6580, if they call that main number, we can direct them to the right person to talk to, whether they want to apply to be a career or if they want to volunteer.
Or just get some more information and learn more about it.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, Chief. Thanks for stopping by today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin. I hope you'll come back also.